natural disposition that one has about that there is a creator, there is a superpower, there is something, a higher being up there who is in control of everything, who's created us, who is the creator of everything, basically. So this feeling is something that is inbuilt in all of us.
For a part, I can believe in like evolution, like just physical and chemical and biological, but then still like thoughts and how humans interact. I find that so interesting. Like,
in terms of our place in the cosmos, I mean, our heart and our mind, our intellect tells us there is a supreme being out there.
yeah, like
It's not a matter of a chance or there's nothing, absolute nothingness. It's not like this. So, by their own, dogmatism, science cannot really say there is a creator. Okay, it has its own problems. So science, unfortunately, has become a bit dogmatic. They have taken a stance, and there are reasons for it. I'm sure you know. You know, when during the early centuries, few centuries ago, when Europe was under Catholicism, and there was this scientists trying to understand the reality, understand the physical laws, and they were
like the sun is the middle of the
they were actually prevented from doing so, because Galileo is an example who was under house arrest. Yeah. Since then, science somehow, or scientific community at that time, who were rationalist thinkers, who had this grudge against the church, or the Catholic Church in particular. And later on, when Karl Marx produced his book, Das Kapital, and then you had Charles Darwin coming along with The Origin of the Species, they found a platform in which they can now stand and say, look, we don't have to believe in these creation theories of God or not. This is all natural. Okay? This is all natural mechanism, and this is how we explain it. And that's how science took that angle from there onwards. And now scientists, if you are a scientist, you have to be by default not believer in a creator, because otherwise it doesn't work. You'll be called like, pseudo-scientist. How can you be a scientist and believe in a creator?
I have one of my best friends, like I studied medicine. She's like a really believer of the Christian faith, so she believes in God, but she still like has to do the science and deals with all of that, and she just sort of separates, like, this is my work, I just see what I see, and this is what I believe in, and this is how I feel about it.
So there are many scientists who are theists, who believe in God. But in the scientific community, if you want to publish in a peer-reviewed journal about the wonders of the creation and link that with God, no one's going to take it.
But it's the same if you have in science, like if you have negative results, nobody will take it.
So that's why we're saying science has become dogmatic, and that's why the question about the existence of God is not really a scientific one, is it?
I don't think so.
So since you know in your heart and your mind, that there is a creator out there, there may have been confusions about who this creator is because of our upbringing. You may have born in a Christian family or an atheist family. Now people are being born in atheist families because their parents are atheists, and then bringing up them with this framework in mind where these are old myths and superstitions and ideas and fairy tales, or others are leaving them saying you can make up their own mind, but there is a huge influence saying no, religion is a man-made thing. Okay, and you know about Richard Dawkins, how militant is he in his pushing forward his ideas against religion and religious. Richard Dawkins. He's a well-known scientist, a very good one indeed, but when it comes to his religious ideas, of course he's totally against creationism or religion being taught in schools or universities or something like this, and actively, one who goes on to talk against religion. Okay? You have scientists out there who don't care about people believe in religion or not, but he's the one who's opposite, where
everyone, like if I look at my mom is still Catholic and she visits church and those things, but she really like she's like should be good to everybody and she's not against other religions. She's like okay, everybody should be able to have a free choice, and she has a lot of support. Like she prays every night before dinner, and she says it just helps me and it gives me power, and I really like to see that in her. So I like when people have like some back support from. I think it's really important.
So from your standpoint, are you sort of thinking that there might be a super being, a supreme being out there who's all powerful, absolute, or is it just like you're certain, you're convinced logically and rationally? What's your position?
I'm not convinced, but it's more like I can't explain certain things, and therefore I just like there must be something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. How about doing some, intellectual exercise and see where the truth should lie? Okay. So if there is no God, no creator, by default there should be nothing.
Why?
If there was no God, no creator, no creative force, nothing should exist.
I don't know. Like they did something.
Why? Okay.
Yeah.
Why does something exist at all in the first place? Why does something exist rather than nothing?
Yeah, like what I believe personally is like you had this like prehistoric soup, and then just with like.
No, that's the beginning of our the life on Earth.
Yeah.
But why does the cosmos exist?
Yeah.
How did the universe come?
Galaxies, nebulas.
I don't have a good answer to that.
Right. So if you think about it, now let's go backward from here to understand how things do operate. Science is fully based on causality, cause and effect. That's our foundation. One of the paradigms of science. It has to be. We can explain things because of this principle. You have effect because there is a cause. If something exists today, now, you and I, okay, we are energy or matter or any of this interconversion, right? If something exists today, there cannot be a time in the past where there was absolute nothingness.
So something should like
there has to be something
be a start.
Always, not a start. There has to be something always.
Yeah. How can you?
Yeah, because
that?
if you then have a point where there was absolutely nothing, then from absolute nothing you cannot get something, because nothing doesn't have energy, nothing doesn't have power, will, or consciousness. It cannot make or bring anything into existence. So if we are today in existence, there has to be always something. Now here's the problem.
On the roundabout.
But then I like to
As soon as you cross,
think that it's not like all unified in a certain person or power, but that's.
But we can now try to understand it. If something exists always, that means there is no beginning to this something. Whatever you say, there is ultimately something that is there which has no beginning. It's like this. Some people say, look, this universe, okay, maybe something created it. Let's call this something A of the alphabet. A, B, C, A. Question. Where did this A come from? Well, maybe B. So you can carry on this exercise like this, and you can see A, B, C, Z, and you can carry on. Ultimately, because something has to exist always, then this is never ending. This chain of creators for our universe is never ending.
But do you personally believe then that it's like all unified in a person or a god, or how? What do you think about it?
As Muslims, we believe there is a creator who is the creator of everything, who is eternally existing without any beginning, and will be everlasting with no end. Absolute in the attributes that the creator has.
Explain that then? Like
okay, so we can go backwards from here now. So imagine now we'll talk about this universe that we have. Our universe, if it came from a creator who was from another creator and so on, we can ask, okay, does it really end or does it carry on? Which makes more sense? So if I say without an end, it doesn't make sense, and I'll explain to you how. This is the concept of infinity, right? Infinite causes for something. You've got a cup, maybe tea or coffee in your hand, right?
Coffee, yeah.
Coffee. Imagine now you want to give this to me on my hand. And to pass from your hand to my hand, there are infinite number of people it has to pass through. Infinite. Would it ever reach me?
Yeah. I've heard the theory before, like
Yeah.
if you see in distance and like if I have to go from my house to your house is 1 kilometer, but maybe it's 1.11, then I can never reach your house.
Yeah. So think about it. So you've got this cup. It needs to come to my hand, but there are infinite number of people. So it goes to the next person and the next person and the next person. It just carries on going, and there's never ending, infinite. It will never come to my hand.
Yeah, you're right.
Never. Because there are infinite number of people in front of you and me. Our universe would never get created if there were infinite number of creators, because it will never come to a point where it's being created.
I get your point.
So that means the chain of creators for our universe, or the cause for our universe, it has to end somewhere, where before that there is no other creator. So our alphabet will eventually end somewhere, like Z, for example. Z is the first cause of this universe. So we say this first, or the last of all these causes, is the creator of our universe, before which there is none. Is the eternal with no beginning. Absolute, having existed always. Has to exist always. Why? Because this creator has to be always in existence. Otherwise the same question applies.
I get it.
Yeah.
It makes sense if you say it already.
So this creator must be absolute by attribute.
But it's just like too much for the mind to like think of something.
Yeah, but that's why we need to take step by step. Think, logically, sequentially, rationally,
But that's
and
not
then
exactly like describing what I'm feeling. Like there must be something that's like somewhere that has always been there and started it, but
so now you can see your logic and rationality comes to a conclusion. There has to be. It cannot be any other way. So if somebody says, look, our universe came from absolute nothingness, you will say, that is not rationally acceptable, intellectually acceptable. We would reject this concept. Why? Because from nothing, you get nothing. You cannot get something from nothing. To give you an example, a crude example. If I want to give you money, say £10, and I have no money in my wallet, and I have no banks, no friends, nothing, can I give you money? I can't give you money. So the concept of borrowing energy, like science is trying to be clever, it doesn't work because there is nowhere to borrow from.
It works if you study quantum physics.
Yeah. How much of quantum physics do we know today? Very little.
I can show you a whole study that I collected today, but that's not what I want to talk about.
Just one moment. How much of quantum physics do we know today? Very little. Even in quantum physics, here is the problem. Particles don't pop into existence from nothing. This is again what we call misleading information given to the layperson. Do you know or have heard of this very intelligent academic who wrote a book called Universe from Nothing?
yeah, Stephen Hawking.
Not Stephen Hawking.
Who was it then?
That's the time.
Do you know the Universe from Nothing?
He did the universe of the universe everything.
The Universe from Nothing.
That was
That debated, Hamza Zosis debated as well. Professor Lawrence Krauss. I had opportunity of meeting him very briefly in a book signing occasion after his debate. After his lecture he gave on this very occasion. And I asked him, why are you deceiving people? If I remember correctly, it was a long time ago, right? So something along this line, when you know that you don't believe the universe came from nothing, it came from something. He said, I described that in my book, what is nothing. So his nothing is something. So he's being honest, but the title of his book and the presentation, people are misled. People think, yeah, the universe came from nothing, when his nothing is actually something. Yeah?
This has to start somewhere.
Yeah, he described something.
With quantum physics. Einstein himself, he was against quantum physics.
Can you get something from nothing?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
I never did the experiment.
Then
How can I tell
there's
you
no
with
point
any
discussing this
certainty
anymore.
if it's possible or not?
There's no point talking to you at this very minute because you need to do the experiments. But we know
Did
for
you
sure,
do the
without any experiments, because science, in the very axioms of science, yeah, is done without any experiments.
Isn't it still a question if we started like from nothing or if it's always been there? Like isn't that one of
point
the
is
first?
Even in science,
But that's what
the
we call
axioms.
nothing. Like what is nothing?
No, but if nothing was something,
Yeah.
we would call it as something.
Yeah,
But
that's also
nothing
true.
in reality doesn't even exist. It's a concept.
Yeah.
That's the reason nothing can never create something. Because something
the
that doesn't even
particles-
exist cannot create.
So the particles in quantum physics doesn't come from nothing. They come from something.
Well, if you isolate the space, and this experiment has been done, if you completely isolate the space, then particles pop in and out of existence.
They come from something.
They simply.
But
Well, you can
don't
say
need,
that.
like,
It's not, I can say that, that's the reality.
You can say that's reality, but you can't prove that that's reality. You can only assume.
Just one thing. Do you know what nothing is to the philosophers?
I want you to make something perfectly clear. I'm not saying something can come from nothing or
Good.
not. What I'm saying is you can't say for
we can.
certain.
Yes, we can.
that
Yes, we
it-
can.
No, you can't.
Okay.
That's
What is-
something
And this is
Okay.
exactly what I wanted to talk with the two
I
of
think
you.
that's just we don't know enough about it. Like, what is there? Like,
Okay,
exactly
let me
based
define
on
what
us?
nothing is.
That's exactly it. And
Okay.
we just don't
First
know
of all,
after today, I brought the study because
One-
last time you caught me off guard.
One
and
moment.
you too.
One moment. So you can talk to me if you want.
didn't even discuss
So
it last week.
Not
nothing,
last week. It
by
was quite a long time
definition,
ago.
is the absence of everything.
Yeah, but do we know everything?
ran away.
Like
Okay.
particles,
How so?
some kind of radiation, whatever.
That's something.
Whether
That's
we know or
something.
not,
Nothing, by definition,
I didn't
in
run
philosophy,
away.
is the absence of anything and everything.
I
That's the opposite of
the
something.
best argument because I didn't bring
So
the
from
right
that
to you.
nothing, you cannot get something.
I don't run away
So all
from
this
it.
quantum physics, excuse doesn't work. Why? Because you cannot get even quantum particles.
Yeah, if there was
From
absolutely
nothing.
Learn
Yeah.
one book.
because it doesn't
I agree.
exist,
All
like I
you
said.
need is to learn
Yeah.
that.
So now we
Basically, you can
realize
explain
there
everything
is going to be
with the Quran,
absolutely
with the
something in
Quran.
existence.
Exactly. Now the people who study
Always.
science, it's much
Has to
harder on
be.
them because they need to learn
What is
hundreds
the
and
qualities
thousands of
or
books
characteristics
to say
or
all the
properties
things
or
to
attributes
debunk
of
the
that
ideals
something
of
that
the
exists
religious
always
people. And
we
that's
can
the big
decipher?
difference. That is the problem.
It
with
has to be
arguing with a
something
religious
that is not
person.
limited and
that is
dependent
why
and finite.
I couldn't find the right
Because then
answer.
otherwise
If
it will
I
share
bring
the same
right
problems
tools
that we
and the
have.
right
Like,
studies, I can prove
in your
whatever I
religion,
want
do
to.
you believe, like you said, like God is the
So that is the
creator of
reason
the
why I didn't run
universe,
away.
of the earth?
And I got
Do you-
greatly
everything,
slandered by the SC Dawa
Do
channel.
you think like
So,
God is
I'd like
like,
to
is
talk
it
to them.
man, woman, entity, ghost? Like,
Interesting
how
question.
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you how the Quran defines God, right? And see whether it makes sense to you. Let me bring this.
Is it something that's alive?
No, it's only
Is it
Something that Allah exists.
No, it's like,
okay.
Allah exists, and He's going to show you in the Quran how Allah defines or basically describes Himself.
no, like how they describe God or the creator. Like, is it a man, ghost, entity? How do they see the
I
creator?
have
a
the
good
Quran,
question.
but does it have a translation?
Is it something that's still
have a
present, or was it
translation.
only there?
You see, the
got
existence
it?
of God is
Okay.
possible,
Yeah.
even though it's not certain.
Okay.
But the shape himself, and the
ikhlas.
rules that the God follows and the rules he imposes, that's the thing that you can't.
Assalamu alaikum,
That's
Sheikh.
very, very
How are you?
unlikely to
Yeah,
happen.
exactly.
Right.
That's what I wanted to part of the
You don't
things
need
that I wanted
to
to
see the
argue about.
translation, do you?
I want to show her.
Oh, I thought the same guy was still
Okay.
there.
Say He is Allah, God who is one. The Allah, the eternal refuge. He neither begets nor is born, nor is there him any equivalent. There's nothing like unto God.
But you call it a hymn there, so
No,
it's like
in Arabic, you have to describe. There is no it in Arabic. It's either he or she. So Arabs are accustomed to describe in the language of God as a he rather than a she, because to them this is the usage.
everything was he.
Default was He.
It doesn't mean God is a male or a female. So can you get this back again? Yeah? Just give me another translation. I want to show her something interesting on this very thing.
No, but then you personally, just how do you see?
Yeah. Other translations? Give me another translation. So God is the one and only, the unique, the one who is absolute, eternal. Everything depends on Him. He's independent of any need, but everyone needs Him. Not born, doesn't produce any children. And
Do you like see him as a human sort? Like,
No, it's not. It's unlike anything.
it's not made of
So
flesh.
Allah says
Okay.
in the Quran, "Laysa
so
kamithlihi
if God is one and only and unique, because this is what ahad means, one and unique, and being the one which is totally independent, self-sufficient, absolute. If you are one and self-sufficient, of course you can't have a father or a mother or any of these offsprings, because you won't be one anymore. You won't be self-sufficient anymore. So this is how it logically follows that he is not someone who is born or someone who produces anything or gives birth to anything.
But do you see it as a person, like it? At the
No,
beginning?
no. And then it continues, there's nothing co-equal like unto him. There's nothing like him. Quran says, لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing like unto the likeness of God. Nothing like unto the likeness of God. Totally unlike. So the creator is totally unlike the creation. So he's not a man or a woman or a tree or a stone, anything, but creator is one who is the originator of everything, the one who is alive.
Do you have like an image of? Could you?
No.
You
Any image that you have, it's not God.
No, exactly, because how? Yeah.
He's unlike the creation, so we cannot comprehend how God is or imagine him.
More like a concept.
Yeah, but we understand that God exists and there is nothing like unto God. For example, if I showed you, look, let me show you this. You've never seen it before. They say, oh, okay. Then you know that this is a unique form to it. God is unique in every sense. He's unlike the creation. So people have fallen into this error of thinking God is like a man or a woman or a tree or a creation.
I don't think.
People have in the past, they've likened God to be like a man. God is like a man with a long beard, white, and sitting on a throne. Yeah,
that's more like Poseidon and Zeus from the Greek mythology.
And in Greek mythology, in Christian traditions, and so on and so forth, people have pictured God like this. So in Islam, God is totally unique and unlike His creation. But the Quran confirms, وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْبَصِيرُ. He is the one who hears and sees. That means God has attributes. Yep. God is not some abstract entity.
Yes, senses.
He's not a deity of deism where He's created and He left everything alone and He's not bothered or cared. No, God is someone who has attributes. He created and He has this relational attributes with His creation. He interacts with the creation. He creates and He's merciful to them. He's just to His creation. He is forgiving His creation when they do something wrong. So, in Islam, if you look at this concept, your heart and your mind will say, yes, if there is a creator, this creator has to be just. Has to be just. This creator cannot just say to one nation, oh, I am like this, like a monkey, and I am like this or like that. And there has to be continuous uniformity of this message, consistency of the message, consistency. And that's why the Quran reminds us with the past nations of the prophets and messengers that were sent before. It's a reminder, look, God sent to them, worship God, worship Allah, and wajtanibut taghut, and stay away, shun, resist the worship of false gods and false ideas of creators. So your heart, as you know, longs for submitting and surrendering and reverence to someone. If it's not directed to God, it will be directed to something else, like to a musician or a music star or a pop star or a footballer or something, or your own desires. People have these feelings of reverence and gratitude to something. If it's not directed to God, it goes somewhere else. And that's why God is saying, no, don't make your own desires as God. Don't worship the creation, but worship the one who created you. Worship the one who created you and the one who those before you, so that you may be muttaqoon, so that you may be pious, so that you may be God conscious, because God wants us to know Him. He didn't create us like angels where you have no choice. Angels don't disobey God. We don't believe in Satan as a fallen angel. It doesn't make sense. Angels don't have any disobedience, no free will. But He created us with a free will. With a free will, you can say, yes, I accept you, and I acknowledge you, and I choose you as and I submit to you and surrender to you. This is what Islam is. This sincere recognition of your own self, and to surrender your will to the will of the one true God, that makes you a Muslim or a Muslimah. Anyone who does that is a Muslim. So over the time and in centuries, every individual who did this, humbly, willingly and sincerely, they humbled themselves to God and surrendered their will to God, they were Muslims. So you would not be then surprised if we said Jesus was a Muslim, Moses was a Muslim, Abraham was a Muslim, Solomon was a Muslim, because that's the state of submission. Islam is not a new thing that people often mistake for. Islam is the continuation of the same message of God, but the finality of that message through the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Finality of this message. God has, in His wisdom, sent prophets and messengers throughout times, but He sent now a universal messenger with universal message within the Quran and the teaching of the Prophet, that it is now sufficient for all times and all places. You don't need another prophet or a messenger to come to guide us. Our role and responsibility is simply to look into the life of this Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, examine his life, examine the message that he's brought, the Quran, and then accept it or reject it. That's the role of the mind. One of the primary role of the mind is to understand that we are a creation of God, and then find his message of guidance and submit to that guidance. Because do you really think that God created us in vain, in mere play, in jest, for no reason? Does it make any sense? He's created this universe in so much precision in the sense that even they're like so precise to the 22nd decimal places. We're talking about universal constants, Planck's constants, gravitational constants, and so on. So precise in their harmony. The way that we are constructed. I mean, when we have a bleeding, a cut here, somewhere in there, how there's a meshwork formed by fibrin and fibrinogen and all these platelets, and amazing. But instead of thanking God for giving us life and to sustain it, we say he doesn't exist. So we should really come to our natural response. Do you know what natural response should be? Let me give you an analogy first. Now you've talking to me, you think, okay, this guy, maybe not that so bad, right? So we were walking past there, and God forbid, a lorry hit me, right? A lorry hits me, and I'm on the ground, a truck. I'm bleeding, and you thought, let me take you to the hospital, because you're a caring individual. You took me to the hospital. It may not be in this country, somewhere else, where they needed blood and your blood matched and you gave me blood to save my life. My kidney was failing. You gave one of your kidney to save me. I didn't know any of this. I wake up a long time later and I see you sitting there in front of me, and the nurse tells me all that story. What would my natural response to you? Say, get lost, I didn't want any of that? Should I not at least say thank you? That's the natural response of gratitude that I have for you, for what you've done to save me. God has given us the life. He's given me whole of my blood circulation system and the heart. He's given me 2 kidneys, and yet we are not grateful to him. Worship is to show gratitude to our Creator. This is the natural response. It is not something that he needs. Does God need our prayers? Does God need our worship? We need to be grateful to God for what he has given us. If we are able to do this, we will be successful in this life, and we'll be successful in the hereafter, because God did not create us in vain. He's created us for a purpose, to use our mind to follow his guidance. Because if you think that the person who's here in this life, they use their free will to do good and to do evil, and both the results going to be the same, they end up dying the same, and the worms comes and eats them, and that's it. Where is the justice? Where is the justice for the wicked who raped and murdered and oppressed people and animals and the environment? Where is the reward for the one who was kind and good and patient and helping and charitable? Where is the reward? Where is justice? Justice itself demands there should be a day of judgment. Who's going to judge? The one who created this world and the one who will create the next world and set up the justice. So in the day of judgment, how are we going to say, God, yes, I fulfill my duty that you created for, when I didn't even know what I'm supposed to do? You go to an exam,